Stunning, this is totally worth it. Another day, another routine. She had been working at the same marketing firm for nearly 3 years. The work paid the bills, but it didn't bring her joy anymore. Every morning she felt the same sense of heaviness in her chest as she dragged herself to the office, greeted her colleagues with a polite smile, and settled into her chair. She sighed and leaned back, rubbing her temples. Lately, she had begun questioning her choices. Was this really what she wanted from life? She loved art and nature, but her career seemed to leave no room for those passions. Her weekends were often consumed by errands and sleep, and any free time she had was usually spent scrolling through social media, watching other people live exciting lives while she felt stuck. Jessica's phone buzzed beside her, and she picked it up, expecting another message from a friend or a reminder for some minor task. Instead, an advertisement popped up, a short video clip of a wildlife photography workshop. In the video, the sunlight filtered through a dense forest, illuminating vibrant green leaves. A rare bird, its feathers glinting like gold in the sunlight, landed delicately on a branch. The camera zoomed in, capturing every detail, every shadow, every glimmer of life. Jessica's breath caught. She had always loved birds and the forest, loved the calmness of being outdoors, but she had never thought about actually taking pictures like this. The ad ended with a simple line, "Discover your passion. Join the wildlife photography workshop today." Jessica stared at the screen, her heart beating faster. It wasn't just a workshop. It was a door, a small window opening into something she had only dreamed about in fragments during her youth. She remembered the afternoons she spent with her father in the nearby woods, watching birds and insects, sketching the animals she saw in a worn notebook. She had loved those moments, but life had slowly taken her away from them. Work, bills, responsibilities, it was all so practical, so necessary. And yet this ad felt like a whisper, reminding her of the joy she had forgotten. For the next hour, Jessica couldn't focus on anything else. She kept replaying the video in her mind, imagining herself walking through a forest, camera in hand, capturing the beauty of a bird's wings against the morning sun. The thought made her smile, a real smile that she hadn't felt in a long time. But then the doubts crept in. The workshop was expensive. She had other bills to pay. And did she even have the skills to take good photographs? She barely knew how to use the camera she had at home. Still, something inside her refused to let the thought go. She searched for reviews online, hoping to find an excuse to say no, but instead, she found stories of people who had discovered new passions, who had found purpose and joy in their lives through the same course. Each story seemed to speak directly to her, encouraging her to take the leap. Her fingers hovered over the "Enroll Now" button. She could almost hear her father's voice in her head, "Follow what makes you feel alive." Her mind raced with possibilities. Maybe she could take a few days off work. Maybe she could learn to shoot in the evenings and on weekends. Maybe this could be the start of something new. She took a deep breath and tried to imagine herself a year from now. Would she regret not trying? Or would she be proud that she had dared to follow her heart? Jessica shook her head, trying to push away the fear. Fear of failure, fear of wasting money, fear of stepping out of her comfort zone. But there was something stronger than the fear, a spark, small but insistent, telling her that this could be worth it. The feeling was thrilling and terrifying at the same time. She thought about how her life had been so predictable, so safe. She had followed a straight path because it was expected, because it seemed responsible. But safe didn't mean happy. Safe didn't mean alive. She decided to take a break from work that afternoon and stepped outside. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm golden light over the city. Birds chirped in the distance, their songs soft but beautiful. Jessica felt a strange sense of calm. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, she felt like she was considering something for herself, not for anyone else. She wanted that feeling again, the joy of discovery, the excitement of stepping into something new. That evening she sat on her couch, laptop open, the ad still fresh in her mind. She started imagining what she could capture with a camera, the flutter of wings, the dew on leaves, the sunlight filtering through branches. She imagined the stories she could tell through pictures, the memories she could create not just for herself, but for others. It was a world she had almost forgotten existed, a world full of wonder that didn't belong in an office cubicle. The more she thought about it, the more real it became. She could see herself walking through a forest, camera strap around her neck, heart racing with excitement. Every shot would be a challenge, yes, but also a reward. Every photograph would be a little victory, proof that she had dared to try. She could feel it in her bones. This was a chance to rediscover herself, to chase something that made her feel alive again. By the time night fell, Jessica had made her decision. She would enroll in the workshop. She didn't have all the answers, and she didn't know what the future would hold, but she was willing to take the risk. Sometimes, she realized, the most valuable things in life were worth stepping out of comfort zones. She clicked the enrollment button, her hands trembling slightly with a mix of fear and excitement. As she confirmed her registration, a wave of relief washed over her. It wasn't just about learning photography. It was about reclaiming a part of herself she had almost lost. She leaned back in her chair, feeling lighter than she had in years. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Jessica felt ready. She had taken the first step, and somehow it felt like the beginning of something extraordinary. That night she lay in bed, unable to sleep, thinking about the forest, the birds, the light, and the photographs she would take. Each thought was vivid, colorful, and alive. Her heart swelled with anticipation, and she realized something important. Sometimes, the smallest decisions could lead to the biggest changes. She didn't know where this journey would take her, but she knew it would be worth it. And so, with a quiet excitement and a determined heart, Jessica drifted off to sleep, dreaming of golden mornings, fluttering wings, and a life she was ready to embrace fully. A life that promised something stunning, something she knew deep down was totally worth it. The morning. After Jessica enrolled in the workshop, she woke up with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Her heart raced as she thought about what she had just committed to. This wasn't just a casual hobby anymore. It was a challenge, a journey, and possibly a turning point in her life. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the sunlight spilling through the curtains, and smiled. Somehow just taking that first step made her feel lighter, freer, as if a weight she hadn't noticed was slowly lifting from her shoulders. But soon, the excitement was joined by doubt. Jessica couldn't stop thinking about the cost of the workshop. She had paid a significant portion of her savings to enroll, money that could have been used for other things. Rent, bills, groceries, they all demanded attention, and the thought of taking time off work made her feel uneasy. What if this decision ended up being a waste? What if she wasn't good enough? What if she failed? She pushed the worries aside and reminded herself of why she had chosen this path. She wanted to rediscover her passion, to step out of the monotonous routine that had consumed her for years. She wanted to experience life in a way she hadn't allowed herself to before. She wanted to capture moments that were fleeting, delicate, and beautiful. With each thought, her resolve grew stronger. Jessica spent the next few days preparing for the first session of the workshop. She dusted off the old camera she had kept in a closet for years, checking the lens, the battery, and the memory card. She watched tutorials online, trying to familiarize herself with the basics of photography. She made a list of supplies she might need: extra batteries, memory cards, a sturdy bag, and some snacks for the field trips. The preparation, though tedious, made her feel more in control. It was the first time in a long while that she had done something purely for herself, without the pressure of deadlines or work expectations. When the day of the first session finally arrived, Jessica felt a nervous thrill. She arrived at the workshop venue, a small but well-equipped studio, with other participants already chatting excitedly. Some of them looked experienced, confident, and familiar with cameras and techniques that seemed complicated to her. Jessica felt a moment of intimidation, but she reminded herself that she was there to learn, not to compete. The instructor, a cheerful woman named Clara, welcomed the group warmly. She had a calm energy and an obvious love for nature that immediately put Jessica at ease. Clara spoke about the importance of patience, observation, and respect for the natural world. She explained the basic principles of photography, from framing a shot to adjusting focus and light. Jessica listened carefully, absorbing every word, taking notes, and occasionally glancing at the other participants, who seemed to understand the concepts more quickly than she did. The first practical exercise involved capturing simple objects in the studio. Jessica focused on a small potted plant near the window. She adjusted the camera, trying to find the perfect angle. Her first few shots were blurry, the colors dull, the composition awkward. She felt a pang of frustration. Why wasn't she getting it right? She noticed some of the others capturing near-perfect shots almost effortlessly, and a small voice in her head whispered that maybe she had made a mistake, that perhaps she wasn't cut out for this. But Jessica refused to give up. She remembered the spark that had led her to this workshop in the first place, the longing she had felt for years to reconnect with her passion. She took a deep breath, repositioned herself, and tried again. Slowly, she began to understand how to adjust the camera, how to use the light streaming through the window to her advantage, and how to frame the plant so it appeared more vibrant and alive. By the end of the session, she had captured a few shots that made her heart lift. They weren't perfect, but they were hers, and they reflected a small but important victory. After the session, the group went on a short outdoor walk to practice taking pictures in natural light. Jessica felt both excited and nervous. The world outside seemed larger, more vivid, and more alive than her usual city streets. Birds chirped in the trees, the wind rustled the leaves, and sunlight filtered through the branches in golden streams. She tried to focus on capturing these small moments, the curve of a branch, the movement of a bird, the way shadows fell on the ground. Her first few attempts were clumsy. The pictures were dark, blurry, or awkwardly framed. Jessica felt the old doubts creeping in again. Was she too inexperienced? Had she rushed into this without being ready? But she took a deep breath and reminded herself that learning anything worthwhile took time. She reminded herself that she wasn't here to impress anyone. She was here to grow, to explore, and to rediscover the joy of creating something beautiful. By the end of the walk, Jessica had captured a few photos that surprised even her. The sunlight had hit a leaf just right, and the camera had frozen the moment perfectly. She looked at the images on her camera screen and felt a thrill. For the first time in a long while, she had created something that made her proud. Her heart swelled with a sense of accomplishment and happiness that she hadn't felt in years. Over the next few weeks, Jessica immersed herself in the workshop. She spent evenings reading about photography, practicing different techniques, and experimenting with angles and lighting. Every session presented new challenges, but also new opportunities to learn. There were moments of frustration, of course. Sometimes the shots didn't come out as she hoped, or she struggled with the technical aspects of her camera. But every small success fueled her determination. Her friends and colleagues began noticing a change in her. She seemed lighter, more energetic, more alive. They asked about the workshop, and Jessica spoke about it with enthusiasm, sharing her small victories and the excitement she felt at discovering a new passion. Even her coworkers, who had always known her as quiet and reserved, could see a spark in her that hadn't been there before. Despite the progress she was making, Jessica knew she was only at the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead, the field trips into forests and wildlife areas, where capturing the perfect shot would require patience, skill, and resilience. She felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety at the thought. But deep down, she knew that these challenges were part of the journey, and that they were necessary if she wanted to truly grow and achieve something meaningful. One evening, as she reviewed her photos from the week, Jessica paused at a shot she had almost discarded. The image captured a small bird perched on a branch, sunlight illuminating its feathers in a soft golden glow. It wasn't a perfect shot. The focus was slightly off and the background was cluttered, but there was something magical about it. Something alive, something real. She realized that this was what photography meant to her, not perfection, but capturing moments that resonated, that told a story that made her feel something deep inside. That night, Jessica lay in bed, reflecting on the past few weeks. She realized that the workshop had already changed her in ways she hadn't anticipated. She felt more confident, more patient, more attentive to the world around her. She had discovered a joy in learning, a thrill in trying, and a sense of accomplishment that went beyond anything she had experienced in her office job. She knew that the path ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in years, she felt ready to face it. Jessica smiled as she drifted off to sleep, thinking about the forest she would explore, the birds she would photograph, and the moments she would capture. She felt a quiet certainty that the effort, the time, and the challenges she was embracing were all part of something larger, something beautiful. For the first time, she understood that following her passion wasn't just a hobby. It was a journey, a chance to rediscover herself and a way to experience life fully. And so, with excitement, determination, and a heart open to possibilities, Jessica continued on her path. She knew there would be struggles, doubts, and moments of frustration ahead. But she also knew that the rewards, personal growth, creative fulfillment, and the thrill of capturing life's beauty would be worth every effort. The workshop was no longer just a class. It was becoming a part of her life, a spark of joy that reminded her that sometimes the most meaningful journeys began with a single courageous step. The morning of her first solo field trip arrived with a mixture of excitement and nerves. That made Jessica's stomach twist into knots. She had spent weeks preparing for this moment, practicing techniques in the studio, reading about wildlife behavior, and packing her bag with every essential item she could think of. Her camera was cleaned and ready, lenses carefully placed in padded compartments, batteries charged, and memory cards checked twice. She had even packed a small notebook to record observations and sketches. As she drove toward the forest, the city gradually faded behind her. Buildings gave way to rolling fields, and the air smelled fresher, cleaner, with a hint of earthiness that made her inhale deeply. The sound of birds singing in the distance replaced the usual hum of traffic. Every mile she traveled heightened her anticipation, and a smile tugged at the corners of her lips. This was what she had been waiting for, the chance to step fully into a world she had only imagined in her dreams. When she arrived at the forest edge, Jessica parked her car and stepped out. The ground was damp from morning dew, and the sunlight filtering through the trees cast intricate patterns on the forest floor. She adjusted her camera strap, feeling its weight reassuring against her chest, and took a moment to breathe in the quiet energy around her. The world seemed alive in a way that the office never had, vibrant and unpredictable. Every rustle of leaves, every distant bird call felt like an invitation to explore, to observe, to capture. The instructor, Clara, had given clear instructions: stay patient, observe carefully, and respect the wildlife. Jessica knew it wouldn't be easy. Animals were unpredictable, and capturing the perfect photograph would require skill, timing, and a lot of patience. Still, she felt ready. She took a few tentative steps onto the forest trail, camera raised, eyes scanning the surroundings for movement. At first, the forest felt overwhelming. Trees towered above her, shadows shifted with the sun, and every sound seemed amplified: the rustle of leaves, the snapping of twigs, the distant call of a bird. She reminded herself to slow down, to focus on small details, and to let the environment guide her. Her first attempts were cautious. She photographed a cluster of wildflowers bathed in sunlight, a small insect crawling along a branch, and a squirrel scurrying up a tree. Each shot was a learning moment, each click of the shutter a reminder of how much she still had to master. As the morning progressed, Jessica began to notice the patterns of the forest. Birds perched carefully on branches, shifting their weight before taking flight. Sunlight moved in golden streams through the canopy, creating shadows that changed with every passing moment. She crouched low, adjusted her focus, and tried to anticipate movements, just as Clara had taught her. Yet, despite her careful observation, capturing the wildlife in motion proved more difficult than she expected. Many shots came out blurry or poorly framed. Frustration crept in, whispering that perhaps she wasn't cut out for this. Jessica paused for a moment, sitting on a fallen log, her camera resting on her lap. She felt exhausted, both physically and mentally. The forest that had seemed magical earlier now felt vast and intimidating. Doubts surfaced. Had she been naive to think she could succeed? Would she return home empty-handed, discouraged and frustrated? Her heart sank at the thought of failure, and for a brief moment, she wondered if she had made a mistake in enrolling in the workshop. But then she remembered why she had started this journey. She remembered the spark that had led her to the workshop, the longing to rediscover a passion she had almost forgotten. She remembered the small victories in the studio, the moments when her photographs had surprised her and filled her with pride. Taking a deep breath, she reminded herself that this was part of the process. Success wasn't immediate. It required patience, persistence, and resilience. Every challenge was an opportunity to grow, and giving up now would mean losing the chance to truly learn. Determined to try again, Jessica got up and continued down the trail. She slowed her pace, moved quietly, and let her senses adjust to the environment. Hours passed as she observed the birds, the squirrels, the insects, and the subtle movements of the forest. She practiced adjusting her camera quickly, capturing fleeting moments before they disappeared. Some days nothing went as planned. The birds flew away, the sunlight shifted, the wind disturbed the leaves, but each attempt taught her something new. By midday, Jessica found a small clearing where sunlight poured in through a break in the trees. A pair of rare birds appeared, their feathers bright against the green backdrop. Her heart raced. She crouched low, adjusted her lens, and held her breath, careful not to startle them. Her fingers trembled slightly as she focused, trying to anticipate their next movement. One bird hopped from branch to branch, its wings flicking in the sunlight, and Jessica clicked the shutter again and again, capturing as many moments as she could. Despite her excitement, the challenge continued. The birds were fast and unpredictable, moving in ways that made it difficult to get a clear shot. Some pictures were ruined by shadows, others by sudden movements. Yet, each failed attempt taught her something about timing, focus, and patience. She realized that capturing the perfect photograph wasn't just about technical skill. It was about observation, intuition, and respect for the natural world. As the afternoon wore on, Jessica began to feel the toll of the day. Her legs were sore from crouching and walking, her hands ached from holding the camera, and her mind was exhausted from constant focus. Yet, despite the fatigue, she felt a quiet exhilaration. Every step she took, every moment she observed, every photo she captured was part of the journey. She had never felt so alive, so present, so connected to something bigger than herself. Near the end of the day, just as the sunlight began to soften into golden hues, Jessica spotted a particularly rare bird perched on a high branch, completely still, as if aware of her presence. Her heart leapt. She adjusted her lens carefully, her hands steady despite the exhaustion, and waited for the perfect moment. The bird spread its wings, catching the sunlight in a way that made its feathers shimmer like liquid gold. Jessica clicked the shutter, her finger pressing lightly but with precision. The moment was fleeting, gone in seconds, but the camera had captured it perfectly. Jessica lowered her camera, her chest heaving with excitement. She reviewed the image and couldn't believe what she saw. The photograph was breathtaking, more beautiful than anything she had imagined. The effort, the patience, and the struggle of the day all felt worth it in that one perfect moment. Tears of joy welled up in her eyes as she realized that this was what she had been searching for. Not just the image, but the experience, the journey, the connection to life in its raw, beautiful form. As she packed her camera and prepared to leave the forest, Jessica felt a sense of accomplishment and pride she had never experienced before. The day had been exhausting, challenging, and sometimes discouraging, but it had also been magical, transformative, and unforgettable. She understood now that every struggle, every mistake, and every moment of doubt was part of the process, shaping her into a better photographer and a more patient, observant person. Driving home, Jessica reflected on the day. She realized that this experience was about more than taking photographs. It was about perseverance, self-discovery, and embracing challenges. She felt a newfound confidence in her abilities, a deeper appreciation for the beauty of nature, and a sense of gratitude for having dared to step outside her comfort zone. By the time she reached her apartment, the sky had turned a deep shade of blue, and the first stars were beginning to appear. Jessica unpacked her camera, carefully transferring the images to her computer. Each photograph told a story, each captured moment a testament to her dedication and patience. She smiled as she reviewed them, knowing that this was just the beginning of her journey. That night, Jessica lay in bed, replaying every detail of the day in her mind. She remembered the rustle of leaves, the songs of the birds, the warmth of the sunlight, and the thrill of capturing a perfect moment. She understood that challenges were inevitable, that success required effort, and that true fulfillment came from embracing the journey, no matter how difficult it seemed. She drifted off to sleep with a heart full of excitement and a mind brimming with ideas for her next adventure. Jessica knew that more challenges awaited her in the days to come, longer trips, unpredictable weather, and even moments of doubt, but she was ready. She had learned the first lesson of the forest. Patience and persistence could transform even the most difficult experiences into moments of beauty and triumph. The path ahead was uncertain, but she felt alive, inspired, and determined. She had taken the first big step into a world that promised wonder, growth, and discovery. And in that quiet moment, as sleep gently claimed her, Jessica felt a deep sense of gratitude. The journey was hard, yes, but the rewards, the breathtaking photographs, the lessons learned, the joy of discovery, made every challenge completely worth it. She knew that this experience would stay with her forever, shaping her not just as a photographer, but as a person willing to follow her passion, embrace challenges, and believe in the beauty of the journey. The morning sun rose slowly, casting a warm golden light over Jessica's small apartment. She woke with a mixture of anticipation and determination, her heart fluttering as she thought about the day ahead. Today was different from the previous field trips. It was her chance to capture something extraordinary, something she had dreamed about but hadn't yet experienced, the perfect wildlife photograph. She had planned this trip carefully, choosing a location recommended by Clara, the instructor, known for its rare birds and breathtaking scenery. Jessica packed her bag with precision, extra batteries, lenses, snacks, water, and her trusty notebook, all carefully arranged. She checked her camera for the 100th time, making sure everything was in place. Her fingers lingered on the shutter button as if it held the key to the day. She had practiced patience and observation for weeks, but today, all that preparation would be put to the ultimate test. The drive to the forest was quiet. Jessica's mind replayed all the lessons she had learned. Stay calm, move slowly, observe before acting, and respect the animals. She thought about the previous field trip, the struggles, the blunders, the frustration, and realized how much she had grown. Each mistake had taught her something invaluable. Each failed shot had sharpened her skills and strengthened her patience. Today, she felt ready to embrace every moment, knowing that persistence often led to unexpected rewards. Arriving at the forest, Jessica paused at the edge and took a deep breath. The air smelled of earth and leaves, rich and alive. Sunlight streamed through the canopy, creating shifting patterns on the forest floor. Birds called from the treetops, their songs a melody that seemed to welcome her into their world. She adjusted her camera strap and stepped carefully onto the path, her eyes scanning every branch, every leaf, every shadow. She knew that beauty often appeared in the smallest details, and she didn't want to miss a single one. Hours passed as Jessica moved quietly through the forest. She crouched low, peered through branches, and adjusted her focus repeatedly. Birds flitted from tree to tree, squirrels darted across the ground, and insects buzzed softly around wildflowers. Many moments slipped past too quickly to capture, and some shots came out blurry or poorly framed. Yet each attempt was a lesson, a chance to learn, to anticipate, and to improve. She reminded herself that the process was as important as the result, that patience and observation were the keys to success. By midday, the sun was high, casting strong light that made photography challenging. Jessica found a shaded clearing, a small stream winding through moss-covered rocks. The area was serene, alive with subtle movements, a dragonfly hovering over water, a butterfly resting on a flower, birds hopping near the stream's edge. She crouched behind a bush, careful not to disturb the wildlife, and adjusted her camera settings. Her heart raced. The moment felt alive, vibrant, and full of possibility. Then she saw it. A bird she had never seen before perched on a branch above the stream. Its feathers glimmered in shades of turquoise and gold, and it tilted its head curiously as if aware of her presence. Jessica's breath caught. She raised her camera slowly, careful not to make sudden movements. The bird shifted slightly and she clicked the shutter, one shot, then another, then another. Her fingers moved instinctively, guided by weeks of practice, by patience, and by the quiet understanding that had grown between her and the forest. Time seemed to stretch as she observed the bird. It hopped from branch to branch, fluttered its wings, and occasionally dipped near the water, creating ripples that reflected the sunlight. Jessica adjusted her angle, her lens, and her focus repeatedly. The moment was fleeting, delicate, and unpredictable. Every movement mattered. She reminded herself to breathe slowly, to stay calm, and to trust her instincts. The forest seemed to hold its breath with her, waiting for her to capture the perfect moment. Suddenly, the bird spread its wings in a brilliant display of color, sunlight catching every feather. Jessica's heart leapt. She adjusted her lens, focused carefully, and clicked the shutter. Time seemed to freeze. The camera captured the exact instant when the wings were fully extended, the sunlight highlighting the intricate patterns, the bird suspended in midair as if dancing with the light. Jessica's hands trembled with excitement. She lowered the camera slowly, afraid that moving too quickly might break the magic of the moment. She reviewed the image on her camera screen and gasped. It was more than she had imagined. The colors, the light, the composition, it was breathtaking. Her eyes welled with tears, not from exhaustion, but from the sheer beauty of what she had captured. All the struggles, all the doubts, all the hours of practice had led to this one perfect photograph. Every step, every blunder, every moment of frustration had been worth it. She felt a profound sense of accomplishment and joy, unlike anything she had ever experienced before. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur. Jessica continued to take photographs, but the image of that one perfect moment remained in her mind, a shining reward for her persistence. She walked slowly, savoring every detail of the forest, every sound, every shift of light. She took notes in her notebook, sketching the bird's posture, the patterns of light, and her own observations about patience and timing. The experience was more than just photography. It was a lesson in life, a reminder that beauty often required waiting, watching, and enduring challenges. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, Jessica found a quiet spot by the stream. She sat on a moss-covered rock, exhausted but exhilarated. The forest glowed in the warm light, shadows stretching long across the ground. Birds sang their evening songs, and the gentle sound of water flowing over rocks created a soothing rhythm. She realized that the forest had become a teacher, showing her the importance of observation, patience, and respect for the natural world. She reflected on her journey so far. The early doubts she had felt, the fear of failure, the worry about being inexperienced, seemed small now, almost insignificant. Every challenge she had faced had prepared her for this moment. Every failed shot, every frustrating hour, every moment of uncertainty had been a stepping stone toward growth and success. She felt gratitude for the struggles as much as for the triumphs. Jessica carefully packed her camera as the light faded, her heart full of satisfaction. She walked back along the forest path, feeling a sense of connection to the world around her that she had never experienced before. The day had been long and challenging, but it had been magical, transformative, and unforgettable. She understood now that persistence and patience could create moments of pure beauty, moments that stayed with her forever. Driving home, Jessica kept thinking about the photograph she had captured. She imagined sharing it with Clara, with her friends, with anyone who would appreciate the dedication and love that went into capturing it. More importantly, she realized that the journey itself, the challenges, the struggles, the learning, had given her a sense of fulfillment that went far beyond any image. She had discovered a deeper part of herself, a part willing to try, to endure, and to create. That evening, she carefully transferred the photographs to her computer. She spent hours reviewing them, noticing details she hadn't seen in the forest. The way the sunlight highlighted the textures of leaves, the subtle expressions of the birds, the interplay of shadows and light. Each image told a story, but one photograph stood out above all the rest. It was perfect in its imperfection, alive with movement, light, and color. She stared at it, feeling a wave of emotion she couldn't put into words. Jessica knew that this was more than just a photograph. It was a symbol of her journey, a testament to her persistence, her growth, and her courage. She thought back to the first day she had enrolled in the workshop, unsure and hesitant, and marveled at how far she had come. Every moment of doubt, every struggle, every challenge had led her to this point. She felt a quiet pride, a sense of accomplishment, and a deep joy that filled her heart completely. As night fell, Jessica lay in bed, thinking about the day, the forest, and the photograph that had captured her soul. She realized that the journey was far from over. More challenges awaited, more moments to capture, more lessons to learn, but she was ready. The breakthrough she had experienced today was a reminder that effort, patience, and belief in oneself could lead to extraordinary rewards. And in that quiet, peaceful moment, Jessica understood something profound. The struggles had been necessary, the challenges unavoidable, but the joy and fulfillment she felt now made every effort completely worth it. She drifted off to sleep with a heart full of gratitude, excitement, and the quiet knowledge that she was on a path that promised beauty, growth, and unforgettable experiences. The weeks after her breakthrough field trip were filled with a sense of quiet accomplishment and anticipation for Jessica. Every day, she revisited the photographs she had taken, each image bringing back the feelings of wonder, patience, and joy she had experienced in the forest. The perfect shot, the bird with its wings spread in the golden sunlight, remained her favorite, a constant reminder of the effort, persistence, and learning that had brought her to that moment. But Jessica knew that the journey didn't end with a single success. There were more skills to learn, more places to explore, and more challenges waiting for her in the world of wildlife photography. She spent her mornings carefully organizing her photos, creating folders for each field trip and adding notes about the conditions, lighting, and behavior of the animals she had observed. She experimented with editing techniques, adjusting colors and brightness to enhance the natural beauty of each shot without losing its authenticity. With each small improvement, Jessica felt herself growing more confident, more capable, and more connected to the craft she had chosen to pursue. Her friends began to notice a change in her as well. She had always been cheerful, but now she radiated a quiet confidence and a calm joy that made her presence uplifting. When they asked about her new hobby, she spoke with excitement, sharing stories about the forest, the birds, and the lessons she had learned. Her experiences became more than just photographs. They were stories of courage, patience, and persistence that inspired those around her. Some of her friends even expressed interest in joining her on short walks in the park, eager to learn about nature and photography from her perspective. One afternoon, Jessica received an unexpected email that made her heart skip a beat. It was an invitation to submit some of her photographs for a local art exhibition. The email praised the quality of her work, noting the attention to detail, the sense of timing, and the ability to capture moments that were both rare and beautiful. Jessica stared at the message in disbelief. For years, she had wondered whether her passion for nature and art could ever be recognized. Now, not only was she being acknowledged, but she was being invited to share her vision with others. Over the next few days, Jessica carefully selected the images she wanted to submit. She chose the photograph of the rare bird in the golden sunlight as her centerpiece. Every time she looked at it, she remembered the early mornings in the forest, the hours of waiting, the frustration of failed shots, and the exhilaration of finally capturing the perfect moment. The image was more than just a photograph. It was a testament to her dedication, growth, and determination. As she prepared her submission, Jessica reflected on how far she had come. She thought back to the moment she had first seen the advertisement for the wildlife photography workshop, the hesitation she had felt, and the doubts that had almost held her back. She remembered the struggles in the studio, the blunders in her early shots, and the exhaustion during her first field trips. Each step had been difficult, but each step had also been necessary. She realized that the journey had been as important as the destination, shaping her into a stronger, more confident, and more resilient person. When the day of the exhibition arrived, Jessica felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She dressed carefully, wanting to feel presentable, but her mind was focused on the photographs. She entered the gallery, taking in the artwork displayed on the walls. The room was filled with vibrant colors, creative compositions, and the visible passion of many talented artists. Her own photographs were displayed in a well-lit section, and for a moment she paused, unable to look away. Seeing her work presented publicly, in a professional setting, filled her with an overwhelming sense of pride and gratitude. Visitors slowly began to notice her photographs. People paused in front of her images, pointing out details and expressing admiration for the way she had captured light, movement, and emotion. Some asked questions about her techniques, the locations she had visited, and the challenges she had faced. Jessica spoke openly and honestly, sharing her experiences with patience and excitement. Each conversation reminded her of the journey she had undertaken, the early doubts, the hours of practice, the lessons learned in the forest, and she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. One woman approached her and said, "Your photographs are amazing. They feel alive, as if I'm seeing the forest through your eyes. How long have you been capturing these moments?" Jessica smiled, feeling her heart swell. "Not very long," she replied. "But I've learned that patience, observation, and persistence can make even a small effort create something beautiful." The woman nodded, impressed, and Jessica realized that her journey had not only enriched her own life, but could inspire others to pursue their passions as well. In the days that followed the exhibition, Jessica continued to explore new locations and capture more images. She traveled to nearby forests, parks, and lakes, always searching for moments of beauty, connection, and discovery. Each new photograph was an opportunity to refine her skills, to learn something new, and to deepen her understanding of the natural world. Her confidence grew steadily, and she began to see herself not just as a beginner, but as a dedicated photographer capable of creating meaningful work. Jessica also discovered that her journey had affected her in ways beyond photography. She noticed that she approached challenges in other areas of her life with greater patience and resilience. At work, she became more focused, more creative, and more willing to take on new projects. In her personal life, she nurtured relationships with friends and family, sharing her experiences and encouraging them to pursue their own passions. She felt a sense of balance and fulfillment that she had never experienced before, a harmony between her responsibilities, her creativity, and her joy. One evening, Jessica sat by her window, reviewing her most recent photographs. The sun was setting, casting a warm, golden glow over the city, and she felt a deep sense of gratitude. She thought about the forest, the rare bird, and the perfect moment that had changed everything. She thought about the workshop, the struggles, the failures, and the breakthroughs. Most of all, she thought about the decision she had made months ago to follow her passion, despite her doubts and fears. Every step had led her to this moment, and she realized that the journey had been stunning in ways she could never have imagined. As Jessica reflected, she understood that the true reward was not just recognition or a perfect photograph. The reward was the transformation she had experienced, the courage to pursue her dreams, the patience to endure challenges, and the joy of discovering her own potential. She realized that every struggle, every mistake, and every effort had been necessary to create a life filled with meaning, beauty, and fulfillment. The journey had taught her that the greatest moments often came after perseverance, and that taking risks, embracing challenges, and following one's heart could lead to experiences beyond imagination. In the weeks that followed, Jessica continued to grow as a photographer and as a person. She shared her work online, receiving messages of encouragement and admiration from people she had never met. She joined photography clubs, attended workshops, and connected with others who shared her passion. Each interaction, each opportunity to learn and create, reinforced her belief that the decision to pursue her passion had been the right one. Jessica often thought about the day she had captured the perfect photograph, the moment when everything aligned, the light, the bird, the forest, and her own focus and patience. That memory remained vivid in her mind, a reminder that persistence and dedication could produce extraordinary results. It was a lesson she carried into every aspect of her life, that effort, patience, and belief in oneself could transform challenges into triumphs and dreams into reality. Looking back, Jessica realized that the journey had been more than she could have imagined. The wildlife photography workshop had been the catalyst, but her growth, discovery, and fulfillment had come from her willingness to embrace challenges, to endure failures, and to pursue her passion with determination. She had learned that the most meaningful experiences were often the ones that required courage, perseverance, and an open heart. One morning, as she prepared for another trip to a nearby forest, Jessica paused and looked at her reflection in the mirror. She saw a woman transformed, confident, patient, joyful, and filled with purpose. The journey had not been easy, but it had been stunning, unforgettable, and completely worth it. She smiled, picked up her camera, and stepped into the world with excitement and anticipation. The adventure was far from over, and she knew that countless breathtaking moments awaited her, moments that would continue to shape her life and bring joy, growth, and fulfillment. And so Jessica continued her journey, not just as a photographer, but as someone who had discovered the power of patience, persistence, and following one's passion. She knew that life would always present challenges, but she also knew that those challenges could lead to extraordinary rewards. Every photograph, every field trip, every effort became a part of her story, a story of courage, growth, and the beauty of embracing life fully. In the quiet moments, when she looked at her photographs and remembered the struggles and triumphs that had led to them, Jessica felt a deep sense of satisfaction and gratitude. She understood more than ever that the journey itself was just as important as the destination. And she knew without a doubt that following her heart, despite doubts and fears, had been the best decision she had ever made. It had been stunning, challenging, and completely, undeniably worth it.